Hello everybody, welcome back. So difficult to make videos at the moment because my second daughter was born on Wednesday evening. So just I haven't got much time at the moment. But I think what I'll do from now on is when I get an opportunity, I'm just going to do a batch like I'm going to do now of some of the main coins that we like to look at on this channel, and perhaps maybe a few more, and it might be a bit of a longer video, and there might be certain things that you're interested in, certain things you're not, so you can just skip through at your leisure. So let's get started then, shall we? So we'll just stare at the Bitcoin chart. So clearly what's happened here is that we've come down to test the 200 EMA, which is all pretty much the centre of the Bollinger Band as well, from where we're hovering above at the moment. We have broken down beneath it on the daily chart. Go down to a 4-hourly, see if there's any kind of relevance to any of the moving averages on this one, and there's not. In fact, only resistance from the top of the Bollinger Band when you're staring it on the 4-hourly. So it's definitely a battle of support and resistance between the bulls and the bears to really grab hold of this and take it in which direction it wants to be in. That could be a big move to the up, it could be a big move to the down. So technically right now what we are looking at is anything's possible, more or less. Anything's possible. Looking at it, generally speaking, though, it definitely looks a little more bearish in the short term than it does bullish. But we are heading into a weekend which could be bullish by nature. The reason I say that is that we've had a fresh cross here on the MACD. We're still technically in bullish territory, but it's gone clearly bearish. It's a relatively steep cross that we've had there, which would usually play out some kind of pullback on this. A pullback from today's candlestick could bring us down to the low 8,000s. We're already at the low 8,000s technically. We could come down to 8,000 and probably find a bounce around there, because that is, from what I see, the centre of the Bollinger Band would be tested at that point on the daily chart. We haven't really got a great deal more to go on when we're looking at this. Sort of very small, short time frames on the 4-hourly do kind of look bearish now. We've got negative slopes forming on the 50, which is never good, and we're trending beneath it as well. And I imagine that would prove to be a resistance for us, even if it's just a temporary resistance. Breaking above there, though, would prove to be bullish. So this has got a negative slope, so the price is going to decrease every 4 hours. But at the moment that's 8,550. 8,554 to be precise. So breaking above there, we could go bullish again, but we need to get above there, and I would imagine that's going to prove to be resistance for us. And it looks like it's resistance already. You could consider that the centre of the Bollinger Band also. So the 4-hourly chart is the one to be trading on this one at the moment. And that's all I've got to go by on Bitcoin, and Bitcoin dictates the market. So like I say, it's bearish in many ways until we break above 8,550, and then there's a chance that we could go back bullish again. But again, that's just very short time frames. But it's we're going to be within a trading range. I would expect of 8,000 flat and 8,550 top. So that's that. We are now looking at Ethereum. Ethereum is one of the biggest holdings I've got, because I don't really have time to trade, essentially. Now that I've got a baby in the house and a toddler and stuff, so it's basically going to be a big challenge for me to sit down and do margin trades or whatever. So I like to kind of side with the strong, and I do feel as though Ethereum is strong, and so rather than sort of buying low, selling high, I thought I'd just buy into something that's got relatively decent prospects for at least the next few months. And the reason I say that is Ethereum, when you go back into the previous, the previous bull run that we had this year, it did pretty good. But more than that is that this year, that fundamentally, Ethereum has grown to an extent that its ecosystem is so large, that its client base is so big, and 2.0 will be coming out. So I would expect that not only because the infrastructure is strong, but the chart is a mimic of Bitcoin. Whatever Bitcoin does, Ethereum seems to do. I just feel as though Ethereum this year, I'm not going to say in the long run, but this year, I think that Ethereum will, they call them an oscillator. It basically does what Bitcoin does. So it will move with Bitcoin, but it's also likely to take on a life of its own at some point this year and still move with Bitcoin, but then also pump quite hard because of the I guess the innovations in its technology. So, and also it's a trading partner, a trading pair, should I say, on Binance. So if ever I do want to move some of this out into something else, it's pretty easy to do it. I can just do it straight from this to that. Similar to the way I would do with BNB, which is also another quite a big holding that I've got. So yeah, I'd rather hold Ethereum and BNB and Bitcoin than anything else, because they're trading pairs. There's a lot of liquidity. They're very strong, and yeah, the chart basically is doing what Bitcoin does. It's actually not as strong as Bitcoin when you look at the chart itself. We're beneath the 200 EMA, and I suppose you could say finding rejections beneath it, which isn't good. But there's likely to be some more bullish things taking place. So obviously we had our golden cross on the 4 hourly, which is good. I think we will have had one on the 12 hourly, but I could be wrong. No, we haven't had one yet, but we look like we're likely to have one shortly. Now, Bitcoin's already had its golden cross on the 12 hourly, and it didn't prove to be very fruitful. But a lot of the time, when you get these sort of crosses on the larger time frames, they do take a little bit of time to play out, and sometimes there's like a pull into that cross. And probably because bears are trying to stop that cross from taking place, so a lot of the time you will find a pull into that area to try and avoid it. So we might be looking at something like this, but again, we're going to do what Bitcoin does, and then when we get this cross, it will enhance its move if Bitcoin decides it wants to go bullish again, which I think it probably will. And we might be in for some hard times. We could break that 8,000 and come into the 7,000 areas, but there's plenty of supports around those areas. 8,000 is going to be a decent support. 7,750 is going to be a really good support for Bitcoin. So I think we're talking about big bounces when we get down to those levels, and once you bounce from those levels, you find yourselves being supported on the upper support levels. So that's kind of what I'm expecting with Bitcoin. So my expectations are that Bitcoin will eventually make its way back to being bullish again, if this pullback continues, down to like those other levels. It's still within $1,000 range to the down, $750 maximum. I would expect to see a pullback at the level that we are right now, and then we'd find bounces. So that would basically mean that coins like this will get hit quite hard, but they would also bounce with the rest of the market, bounce with Bitcoin, and we're waiting for these crosses to come out. So it's basically doing what Bitcoin does, and then some. So because we will have these positive crosses and these positive slopes forming. So that's how I'm looking at Ethereum. Unfortunately, we do have the negative crosses on the daily and the 12 hourly. In fact, we've not quite got it yet on the daily, have we? Almost got it. We're going to get it, unless something magical happens. But we are going to get it on the daily. But again, the weekend's coming. Weekends are often bullish by nature, so we'll see what happens. Bitcoin's already had its negative cross. A lot of these alts don't seem to have had it, actually. So we're now looking at BNB. BNB's looking pretty much the same as Ethereum, really. They pretty much do the same. Top altcoins are going to move in the same way. But again, I trade this coin heavily because, or should I say hold it now. I'm holding these coins now quite substantially because they oscillate the Bitcoin move. So they will move with Bitcoin. They will trend with Bitcoin. And then they will take on a bit more of an enhanced move of their own. So we're looking at this. We've got our golden cross, just like we did with Ethereum. Go to the 12 hourly. How close are we to receiving this golden cross? Same as Ethereum, really. So we're basically looking at a chart which is almost identical to that of Ethereum, and that's not surprising, really, when you think of the two. And they're quite high up there with the market caps. They've both got very significant trading pairs across the board. So the utility for exchanges is almost identical. and generally speaking, their market caps, there's not a great deal between it. Obviously nothing's as big as Bitcoin, but when you're talking about alts, obviously they're quite close together, so you would expect to see their charts to be quite closely linked. So again, I trade this one, or I'm holding this one in exactly the same respect that I hold Ethereum, and I'm holding quite a lot of them, to be honest with you. And again, this isn't my normal style of trading. I've had to pick these coins because I don't have time to trade now, so essentially I'm going to be hodling some coins for a period of months, and these are the reasons I've done this. I've hodled these coins on purpose because I've now become a bit too overwhelmed with being a father of two. If those of you who've got kids will understand. It's quite a lot of stuff that goes into it, and obviously you've got to look after the missus too. So there's a lot of work to be done from my side of things. I have to not sit at computers for as long as I would like to do, let's put it that way. So that's those two done. Now my secret weapon in the arsenal. This isn't because I expect anything enormous out of it, but fundamentally there's some things have been changing with it, and if you join my Telegram group, you'll find me on Twitter. You'll see a pinned tweet there. It's got my Telegram group on there. Feel free to join in. There's a lot of people on there, a couple of guys specifically, who hold one way above the rest. They think it's going to do something special, so they've got a very good track record. One of these guys specifically, he's adamant that something's going to happen, and every time he picks a coin and he pitches that to me, most of the time I don't listen because I like to do things off the back of charts, but he's always right. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, so I'm holding some of this as well because he's absolutely adamant that something special is going to happen. So when we look at the positives on this, what we see is we do see a relatively decent period of accumulation. So you can see how this MACD, completely different to that of Bitcoin, Ethereum and BNB, completely different. This shows a slow and steady positive move up to above the 0 point here. Same with the RSI, slow and steady, higher highs, higher lows. And now technically we're ready for what would appear to be, we are kind of looking at this point now ready for a kind of a breakout. We've closed a couple of days now. It looks like we're likely to close this one now above the green 50 exponential. We do have this big cloud above us, and that will prove to be some significant resistance at the top of the Bollinger Band here, also at the top of the this moving average here, which is the 100 simple moving average, and we're being rejected from there, but that's fine. The volume is very low on this at the moment, even though it is picking up, but it's still very low. There's nothing FOMO about this coin at the moment, and what I would expect is if it does decide to make its move, I'd like to see it break straight through this cloud and then maybe sort of get to this level, or ideally up to this guy here, which is the 200 EMA, before some kind of rejection or pullback. Making moves like that in one big go is possible, but with a coin with as low volume as what we've got here, it'd be difficult to see. What we'd like to see is moves as similar to what's been going on these last couple of weeks, ups and downs, waves and snaking around basically, but basically consolidating to a higher low each time, and then hopefully some higher highs. There's been a few, because the trading volume is so low on one, what you do see is you see a lot of dumps and significant pumps that take nothing more than a minute, because the trading volume is so low. So it's showing that there's something going on, that some people are buying it up and selling it off, but I am noticing some kind of, it's almost like the little telltale signs that a volcano might erupt. There has become some more interest when you see some of these large purchases that are taking place, but there are also some big dumps as well. But so something is likely to happen with this coin. We have had a period of accumulation now that's lasted for, let's have a look at this, it has lasted for 30 days, so not a great deal of time, but it's been uninterrupted. The Bollinger Band's tightened and squeezed a little bit here, so we did get our breakout. Probably I would expect to see another tightening and squeezing of the Bollinger Band around this area, and soon we will be hitting that resistance cloud. How long will that take before we get to the resistance cloud at this level? just less than a week, 6 days, and then even if we are just trending more or less within our most recent low, we will hit that resistance level, and if we can just make our way into it, then that's a good start, and then we can see if we can make that breakout. So something looks like it does want to happen with one. My problem is that the volume is very low, and the chart overall is pretty bad when you look at it like that. But something looks like it does want to happen. So let's have a look at MATIC. We've not looked at this in a while. And again, when you look at MATIC, it does have almost the same kind of setup in that it's been accumulating ever since it broke down in catastrophic fashion. So this accumulation zone here is a little scary because of what happened earlier on in the year. Or was that last year, wasn't it? Yeah. A few months back. So because of that, I'm a little wary of it. But when you do look at the chart in its entirety, since then, yeah, there has been a period of accumulation, but the trading volume has been it's not been too bad actually, considering what happened. People are still trading this, but the movement hasn't really shown much. Now what we are looking at here is that we broke our way above the 200 and the 50, and everything was looking good, and we came back down, rejecting from the 50 simple, which is negatively sloped again. In fact, quite steep. In fact, but that's not the one that we're really caring about. What we really want to look at is these two, this white, this green. We need to get above those. If we don't get above those, we will get a death cross. But the price action seems to be dancing around that level, which means that it's going to take a great deal of time for that death cross to happen, even though it's so close to taking place. RSI is making higher highs as well, which isn't too bad. We're right in the centre of that. Again, similar to one, in what looks like about 5 or 6 days, we will be entering into this big, and this is a big cloud of resistance here. This would definitely be a very telling moment for it when it gets into here. The thing is, if we hang around in this price action and make our way in ever so slowly and subtly, it's better than trying to chip into it from below. So I would expect that we would sail into it, and maybe the bottom of it could prove to be a support, in fact, and we can sail our way up and away. But look how high this goes. It goes all the way up to this significant resistance level, and this is when we were trading MATIC last year. I was making predictions of where magical numbers are going to be. The biggest magical number I said was going to be if we can break above 2.7 cent, and look at where this resistance cloud finishes, 2.7 cent. That again is that area of breakout that we had here. So when we broke down from it the first time, we chipped into it there, fell down, chipped into it again, and broke down. So this is the ultimate resistance as far as I'm concerned, and breaking above there is going to be pretty bullish for MATIC. But the problem is, that's over a cent away. That's quite a long way off. That'll be about 70% away from where we are right now, give or take 65, 70, I don't know. It's close to that though, from where we are at this moment in time. If we can get into this cloud, it's a start, and we can maybe start to trickle our way up. But it looks like it's going to take a little while. But you know how MATIC likes to move. It likes to make big moves. My problem is that if we stay at this level now, or even go further down, we will get the death cross, and it will look nasty. But again, a period of accumulation. It's not long, and it's scary because of that. Technically, we're still playing out a golden cross from over here where we all got in before, so technically we're still in a bullish setup, because there's not been any death cross since the golden cross. So technically it's still in bullish mode, even though it doesn't look it right now. So MATIC could again make another run, maybe not quite as significant as this one, but it could be a tradable coin, it could be a tradable asset. We'll have to wait and see in the next week when we enter this cloud and how we react to it, similar to one. Unfortunately, it does look like we're going to get a negative cross here on the MACD. So in many ways it's trading alongside things like Bitcoin and Ethereum and BNB. It's about to have that negative cross on the MACD, on the daily. So it looks like it's wanting to do what they do. And it's not doing its own thing, which is what we've always loved MATIC for. It kind of did its own thing. Now it looks like it wants to move with the major alts, and and even Bitcoin. So that's interesting. A definite change of behaviour with MATIC. BitTorrent token. Now I know this is a pile of crap, but I have been trading it because this had the best accumulation point of all these IEO coins. So I got in on this one and a couple of these ups and downs. I'm not trading it at the moment because, again, look, we're breaking down, or it looks like we're wanting to break down even further because this cross has taken place. The RSI is making lower lows and lower highs, so it looks like it wants to cool right off and maybe make a significant dump. However, it's not all that bad, but we'll have to wait and see how the market goes, because if the market dumps, I think this guy's going to dump, but it's still showing relative strength in comparison to general altcoins overall, so it's actually not too bad when you look at it on the 4 hourly though. So the 4 hourly of recent times, this is our little run. Golden cross, great, but now we're making several lower highs, which isn't good, and we're coming down to the centre of the Bollinger Band. If we can bounce around this level, 329, so we could call it 33, that would be okay, but everything else on it looks kind of bearish. We're going to be subject to the rest of the market on this one for the moment. It doesn't want to do its own thing. However, it has shown of recent time relative strength, and I put a lot of that down to its volume. It had quite a lot of volume on it before it did its breakout. We were looking at areas of around about 8 million a day or something along those lines when I got in. I was thinking, for a coin that's not making big moves, there's a lot of volume on that already. I know it's on an enormous amount of exchanges, so there was reason for it to move. Even basically when you looked at the daily chart, this is the thing that enticed me, and it's similar to the way that one looks in many ways. A long period of accumulation, but it's quite steep, and then we got our breakout. So we're pulling back from that now. We'll have to stay clear from that. Litecoin, again, another oscillator of Bitcoin, looks just like all the other major alts. In fact, it was looking really strong for quite a while, and now it doesn't look very strong at all. We're basically moving with Bitcoin, and when Bitcoin has done its most recent sort of pumps, you would normally expect Litecoin to pump harder, but it hasn't. It's actually underperformed and been outperformed by things even just like Ethereum and Binance Coin have outperformed it. So we've got our negative cross here on the MACD. So again, kind of a bearish setup in the short term. If Bitcoin pulls something out of its sleeve, which I don't think it's going to do immediately, but again, the weekends are very unpredictable by nature. We do have these crosses, and they do mean bearish. A strong chance of more bearishness to come. So for that, like I say, you have to bring yourself back down to what Bitcoin's doing. Bitcoin could come down to 8,000 or 7,750. In my view, that's my opinion anyway. I'm not a financial advisor, so this isn't financial advice. And the last one, I don't know why we never really look at this. I do sometimes trade this on margin trading. XRP. So XRP on the daily looks pretty terrible. It looks like one of the worst you could see, but it has made some decent runs of recent time, and actually some little steps up. But again, we're breaking down. We're in the middle of the resistance cloud here, and again, look, we've got our negative cross. So again, this is going to do what Bitcoin does. If Bitcoin breaks down, XRP will break down. If Bitcoin breaks up, XRP will also break up, but it's not as strong as Bitcoin. So I think at the moment, XRP is not going to be doing some big pumps for any reason. Even if Bitcoin pumps, we will see your tether value increase with XRP, but the Bitcoin pairing won't. The sats will probably be drained from XRP. XRP is one of those, what do they call it, a diversifier. It's like in many ways people think of it as a sleeping giant. It's that big what if, there is, will it actually ever go back to its all-time high? Will it one day? Will you wake up one day with a 50 cent or a $1 XRP? Will it do some crazy move like that? And that is always likely. There is always that possibility. I'm not going to say it's likely, but it's possible. So in many ways, yeah, it's a diversifier. It does underperform with the other alts, even though it had some big moves just recently. It's an underperformer, but historically it has done some decent moves, and the market cap's really high. There's a lot of people holding this coin, a lot of people like it, and that's good enough reason to trade it in many ways, because it means there's a lot of liquidity there, and the volume is always going to be reasonably high in comparison to a lot of other alts. And when you've got high volume, you're supposed to have volatility, which means big moves. Unfortunately, a lot of those big moves are to the down. So, but we'll, like I say, it's got that negative cross just taken place. So it's in many ways it's exactly the same as all these top alts here, even BTT. They've all got that. It's only one that looks completely different to the rest. All the others are either just about to have it or have actually had the cross. So I'm going to leave it with you there. Like I say, I'm pretty busy at the moment, but I will try where possible to make videos for you guys. And for those of you that have sent me donations, I really appreciate it. Obviously, I've DM'd you about it, and like I say, it goes into my nappy fund, my kids' crypto fund, and I'm very, very appreciative of that. Because I don't really do this on YouTube to make money. There are ads on YouTube, but you don't make much. My videos, I'll probably be lucky to get like $1 a video or something like that. That would be impressive if I get that. I don't really get that kind of thing. So yeah, donations are very welcome, because it actually does keep the channel going. It gives me that extra incentive to carry on. But like I say, there's no pressure for anyone to donate. I'm sure you've got better things to do with your money than send it to me. Anyway, I hope you have a nice evening and a good weekend. Hopefully I'll make a video tomorrow. If not, join my Telegram group. I do still look at chats, but it's on my phone, so it's not as in detail as when I get a chance to stare at a chat on my computer. But yeah, join the chat. There's some really interesting people on there with very valuable opinions. Anyway, have a nice weekend. Thanks for watching. Take it easy, and see you later.